4 arrested in slaying of farm workers. This is going to be an interesting one out there in Salinas, guys. Salinas police Wednesday announced the arrest of 4 gang members in connection with the slaying of 2 farm workers found beaten to death and stuffed into a car trunk 5 weeks ago. Lieutenant Henry Yonayama said all 4 suspects are connected with the statewide Nuestra Familia. The 2 victims, it says right here, discovered February 7th in the trunk of an abandoned Mustang at Shadowbrook Apartments on Ryder Avenue in Salinas, were involved in disputes over narcotic sales with the 4 gang members, he added. And if added again out there in Salinas, this is an old article. Each of the suspects was charged with 2 counts of murder and booked into Monterey County Jail on $500,000 bail. 3 of them are from Salinas: Freddie Soto, Gregory Gabriel, and Patrick Michael Smith. The 4th, arrested after investigators obtained a search warrant and found him in Sacramento house, was identified as Frank Miranda of Sacramento. Ooh-wee. So let's see what's going on here. Miranda was also charged with weapons and cocaine violations after the search. Police did not release complete details of the case, saying that it would jeopardize ongoing gang investigations. The victims they called smugglers. So these were basically people who were drug trafficking drugs into Salinas area that weren't paying their dues. That's how the NF works. But Nayama said the 2 victims, farm workers Ramon Cornejo Correa and Jorge Campos, were Mexican nationalists who transported narcotics over the U.S. border and sold them in the Salinas area. Got to pay your dues. Their bodies were discovered when the apartment complex manager called police after discovering blood dripping from the underside of an older model brown Mustang, which had been parked in a handicap zone at the complex for several days. Oh man, these dudes treacherous, man. They just left the bodies in the trunk like it was nothing, huh? Prisoners killed in court was a 2-time murderer, man. This is another one out there in Salinas, man. This is for the archives. Let's get it. A prisoner shot dead Thursday after he lunged for a bailiff's gun in a Salinas courtroom was a 2-time convicted murderer who had been arrested repeatedly by Salinas police since childhood, police said. They keep tabs out you on Salinas out there, man. Daniel Ray Mendoza of Salinas was in a courtroom holding box awaiting arraignment of charges of armed robbery, burglary, and possession of stolen property when he grabbed for Deputy Robert Mondo's revolver, initiating the tussle that ended with his death, said Salinas Police Lieutenant Roger Milligan. He's about that action, huh? Going for broke. Mendoza was able to fire a bullet into the leg of Deputy Don Wallich during the incident, which involved 4 court bailiffs, police said. The struggle ended when Deputy James Estelle fired a bullet into Mendoza's chest. That's how it goes sometimes, man. Sometimes when you go for broke, then cops got to fear for their life. They're going to take the same action. It is what it is. Last Tuesday, Mendoza had tried to hang himself in his cell at Monterey County Jail, said John Davison, Chief Deputy for Corrections for the Sheriff's Department. The attempt failed when the knot he tied from the belt of his jail jumpsuit slipped, and deputies discovered him lying on the floor. Davison said Mendoza, a member of the fierce prison gang Nuestra Familia, was convicted of murder in Salinas and another in San Joaquin in 1977, police said. He was released from prison in 1987. He had a conviction from way back. He's one of our local guys, said Monterey County Deputy District Attorney Gary Meyer. He's been around a long time. You don't see a whole lot of people around here with 2 convictions for murder. That stands out. Oh, most definitely it does, man. You know, this is before when people catch a murder, they get 7 to life and get out. Salinas police said they have finished their investigation, concluding that Mendoza was shot by the officer in self-defense during an escape attempt. That's kind of a frivolous kind of conversation to say that it was self-defense. Of course it's self-defense if he's lunging for your gun. So this was 2 articles, man, out of the San Jose Mercury News, man. The first one was back in 1990, man, where the 4 suspects basically killed 2 people who were smuggling in dope into their territory, man, which is typical of how the NF has operated in Salinas for years, man. If you come in and you're from not a homeboy, not a North Daniel, not with NF, and if you're not paying your dues to the NF, you're going to have some type of repercussions, man. It's been like that for years. A lot of the wars and stuff and the killings that have happened all the way back to the 70s either were revolving around people suspected of testifying or the drug trade. You know, one of the main reasons why they killed Knuckles was they were fearful that him and the Mexican Mafia were going to try to infiltrate their territory and selling dope. Now, in addition to this, man, the other one, man, from 1991. It looks like just an old timer just got sick and tired, man. Just wanted to go for broke, man. Um, when you're doing time, a lot of people eventually break down. You know what I'm saying? And when you've been treacherous your whole life, like he had two hot ones, man. I mean, way back then, you can get away with two hot ones and get out in 10, 12 years. It wasn't until like the 90s when things started to change, late 80s, because of the rise of violence, they started to implement the 25 to life law. But there was a lot of people who would catch a murder and it'd be out like in 7, 10 years. That was a common practice. And, Salinas has always been, like I said, man, a stronghold for the NF. You know what I mean? It's the one city to where it's been able to operate that way because of its long historical, relationships with numerous NF members. Soledad was right there as well. And therefore, them being a very small city, like I think there may be 170 to 200,000 today, but back then it was probably 80, 100,000. Being a small city, they've been able to contain it, and they've been able to school the future, that comes in. Basically, man, there's jokes about Salinas that, their first words are the bonds, you know what I mean? That by the age of fucking 3 years old, instead of playing with toys, they're making pedazos. Those are like, just all fun and games, but man, it gets real out there, man. Nowadays, you got kids that are 14 years old that are citing the bonds in format, and recognize what the struggle and cause is supposed to be about. It's just been passed down from generation to generation. It's generational. You're born into it. Small community, but very close knit. And the Carnales have always kept their youngsters out there well schooled. And there's always been an enormous amount of Carnales that have came out of Salinas. The only other city that's had just as many would be San Jose and Fresno as well. But San Jose is also the biggest city in Northern California. So, of course, it's going to have a lot of members. But it seems like the cats from Salas, they don't just stay as bros. Eventually, they elevate their status to that of Carnales. Anyways, man, this is an interesting topic. This is something new, man. I'm still going to go back to the old format where you see my face and I just break down topics, man. But these are newspaper articles, man. And I think it's kind of cool to tap into stuff from the 80s and 90s that's really hard to find. I do a lot of research and I have access to a whole lot of other stuff that I'm going to be doing, man. So this is the first one, man, really. As you can tell, I've been kind of doing it a little bit. This one I read word for word and I wanted to break it down a little bit afterwards, man. But I thought that first case was crazy, man, because, they straight put the dudes in the trunk, left them in the handicap spot, and that was it. And I'm wondering how they tied the individual, Frank Miranda, who I've heard of before, all the way up to Sakura. Now, the Gabriels are a well-known established family. So when I seen the Gabriel name, I already knew that they were pretty much probably legit. Now, were every one of these individuals NF? I'm not sure. A lot of times, newspaper articles and police used to put titles upon individuals. So I'm thinking that they were probably either NF members or NF associates, man. But back in those days, like I said, Salinas hasn't changed, man. If you come in and you want to be about that action in business, you're going to have to comply with the NF authority. Anyways, it's your boy Flacco. I'm gone.